Okay, so we're here today to just explore some of the available Surpass delivery methods. So I'm sure that lots of people in this room will already know some of these. Hopefully some of them you're interested in finding out more, or just you've not had a chance to look at. So I'll go through the ones that we're going to explore in a second, but there will be a chance to get a bit hands-on, and there'll also be plenty of chance to ask questions. So this is quite an open workshop, so at any point, if you've got questions, if you've got your own stories that you want to share, please do. Hands up. We want to hear your stories. Okay. So this is just a bit of an overview of what we're going to look at today. I'm already behind schedule, so I'll be in a lot of trouble if I talk too much. But we've already done our introductions, so the plan is for me to just quickly explain which methods we're going to look at today. And then for each of those different delivery methods, we'll talk a little bit about what they are, what the key features are, so how they work and what the considerations are, if you like. So what do you need to think about, and also some of the benefits of them as well. We'll stop for questions after each one, time permitting. And then at the end, we're going to do a hands-on session. So we've got some tablets here for you to try out the tablet app. And we've got some key codes and things. So hopefully that'll be a really interactive session. We've also got some test papers for you to look at. And we've also got some of the product owners here. Product owners, hands raised. So if you have any questions about the delivery methods, do ask us. We'll kind of circulate ourselves around. So please feel free to ask all those questions. Okay. So that should take us up to the hour. But we even have key codes that you can take away. So if you've got your own tablet at home or something, or you want to do it tonight or at the end of the session, we can get you set up. Okay. So these are the 6 key delivery methods that we're going to look at today. And as I mentioned, some of these will be more familiar than others for some of you. So we'll start off with the web browser delivery. We'll then move on to looking at some of the sharing and packaging options around tests. We'll have a little look at paper. We'll look at some of the paper functionality in Surpass Release 12, which is where you do the joint on-screen and paper-based authoring, so you don't have to author papers separately. So that'll obviously be quite relevant to those of you using Surpass Release 12, but also for those of you using Release 11, hopefully that'll be an interesting chance to see some of the differences. And then we move on, have a little look at SecureClient, obviously the benefits of that. I think that's probably the one that those of you who've been using Surpass for a while are most familiar with. But if anyone has questions on that, we'll cover those. And then we're going to cover the Surpass delivery app, the tablet app at the end, because that's when we're going to bring out the tablets for the hands-on. So these are the 6 we're going to look at. We're going to just go through them one at a time. So, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Barry. Sorry, Barry. Looking at Barry. And he's going to take you through the first one.
Okay, so the first method we're going to take you through is web browser delivery. And as the name suggests, it's basically delivery of exams through a web browser. You may be familiar with the key code screen there. So how it works basically is you navigate to the URL, enter the key code, and you're into your exam. So it's extremely simple to set up. That's its main benefit really is the fact that you can literally be an exam within minutes without any installation. So you could potentially give a URL and a key code to a client, to a candidate, and they could be taking the test, literally within minutes. We support currently the 3 most used browsers, which is Internet Explorer, Chrome, and Firefox. This method really is mainly suited for practice tests, familiarization tests, those kind of things, where you're not concerned that the candidate will be able to access other applications. Because obviously, it's not locked down. The candidate can access other websites and other applications. Another consideration for using the web browser is also your internet connection. So being web browser based, it is entirely reliant on your internet connection. So unfortunately, if you lose your connection, the exam will have to be paused and resumes when you resume your internet connection. One of the other types of exams that it is used for are the project-based, where candidates will be using other applications. So it's kind of well suited to that type of exam. Yes. Not exactly. There's no negative to using the browser in that way either. But the secure client, obviously, as you say, it does save it locally, and then we'll upload it. But there'd be no noticeable difference to the user or the candidate, really. Any other questions on that? Oh, by the way, feel free to chip in with questions as they occur to you. That's not a problem.
All of your pictures use Apple screens or laptops and iPads and stuff. Does Release 12 work on Apple? Or
I don't think the screenshot was an Apple one.
Sorry,
but,
go back a couple. And again, not that one.
oh, do you mean the?
So that one in the corner. So yeah.
This one.
So that's all Apple products there.
Yeah, so what we've got here is not delivery, but we've got the tablet delivery on the left. That's authoring in the middle, and
that's a MacBook.
yeah, that's also
Authoring.
yeah.
Yeah, so the authoring in 12, you could author, it's non-flash authoring, so you could do that in 12. But yeah, I think it's that our design team just really like iPads.
Yeah, currently the only delivery method that's supported through an Apple product would be the tablet delivery.
Yeah, but you can now also, you can use the tablet app and Mac in like a kiosk mode, I think we call it.
Okay.
So we do support that from that perspective now. So the tablet app supports the kiosk mode.
Okay. I just want to make sure
Also, in theory as well, because the browser-based is just a browser, I think not all of the functionality works through something like Safari, but obviously you can get Firefox certainly on Macs. So we don't officially support that, but in theory it's just a browser, so it should, most of the functionality should work. And I'll just hand back over to Emma for the next section.
Yeah. Were there any more questions for Gary or on the web browser before I move on? Okay, I'm just going to grab a drink because I'm about to cough. Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that. Hazard of the job. So the next one I want to look at with you is the web link. Those of you who were in the last session will have had a sneak preview of this. But this lets you really quickly get a hosted version of your test. So this is in the test wizard within Surpass Release 12, and this lets you just really quickly, you finish creating your test, and you create a link, and the test is hosted on that link, and it's a sample file, so you can take it as many times as you want. You don't have to schedule it. It's very quick and easy to do, and it's you set the duration that it's available, and it's available for that amount of time. So if you want to say to your candidates, go home and try this test and just get familiar with the interface, this is perfect for that. So yeah, you can take it as many times as you want without scheduling it. So it really has two purposes. You've got on the candidate side, you've got the ability to take a familiarization test, get used to the question types. And then on the internal staff side, you've got the ability to review the test, maybe share it with a colleague, and just get them to feedback on it to you. Okay. So those are a couple of features. It also allows you to give access to non-Surpass users because you don't need a username and a password to get onto that link, so you can share it. You get it sent on email. You can forward that on if you wanted someone to look at the test and review it for you. So are there any questions on the web link method? Okay. It's one of the more straightforward ones in the bunch, as is the next one, which is related, but it's the package test. So this is similar concept, but different in a couple of ways. One of them, obviously, is that it's also available in Release 11 in the item bank screens. So this is a standalone test file that you can create. So this is a way of getting the test out of the system to use it externally to Surpass. So there's two kinds that you can do. You've got the standalone file and the SCORM format. So those of you that use a VLE perhaps, you can export test to SCORM, put it into your VLE, let the candidates access it on there. So there's a few things you can use this for. One of the things that this gets used for most often is putting it on your website. So if you've packaged up a test, it gives you a zip file. You can then do with that zip file whatever you want. You can share it internally, you can host it on your website, and that's perfect if you want candidates to do a practice test before the day, and you want that to be available for all your candidates without having to go through a distribution process or a scheduling process. With this, it's really important to note that the results of this are not saved anywhere. It's just a package to try it out or to review it. So in that scenario, it's perhaps not as useful if you're wanting to check on the candidates and see the feedback. In that scenario where you're wanting to look at their results, look at what they've done, check they've completed it, that's probably more suited to either the web browser, SecureClient, or the tablet delivery. So is this, I think, does anyone in this room use the standalone? You have them on your websites? Yeah, I think it's probably the most common use. We also use it for just, if we've just created a test and we want to quickly have a look at it and make sure that everything's okay. That's a lot quicker than going through the scheduling process, so it's perfect for review.
Maybe perfect for new students.
Yes, to give them access familiarization. Yeah, so you could include perhaps one of every question type and let them try it out just to get familiar with how the controls work and everything. Because all the features that are in Surpass you can use, there's only a couple of things. Obviously, it's not ideal if you've got human marked questions because you can't mark it and give them feedback, but there are ways around that. So you can actually even, you can include the human marked questions and set up feedback on the page, just general feedback. Sorry, am I beeping at you? That gives feedback on the performance and just gives them almost a mark scheme, so the candidate can almost mark their own work in that scenario. So that's one way of getting around the fact that you don't have the marking element, is to put feedback in there. Are there any other questions on that one? Okay. Talk without clicking the button. Terrible. So this one I'm going to talk about for a little bit longer. This is paper as a delivery method. So again, I mentioned earlier that I'm going to talk about Surpass Release 12 rather than Release 11. And the defining feature, I think, of Surpass Release 12 paper authoring is that you only need to author once, and you can use it for both on-screen and for paper. So you can see it here on the review. It says it right there on the button. It's paper and on-screen authoring. But actually, all the questions you create in Surpass, ideally, they can be used in all the delivery methods. So you could have a question that you use in a paper test and an on-screen test, and that same question can go into a tablet test. You don't have to author everything many times, so it's a time saving. Of course, because that question is being delivered by many methods, we have to use more of a form-based authoring approach. Obviously, if you customize things a lot for paper, it's not suitable necessarily for use on tablets. So that's why we have the form-based authoring there, that you just fill in your question text, your answer options, or your space. So some features of paper authoring. So one of the new things you can do now is get out a paper copy of an on-screen test that you've created. So you don't have to author it specifically for paper. The other one is being able to include design and formatting. So those of you who use Content Producer, I can see a couple. I'm sure you'll be familiar with the wrestling with templates to get them into the right place, but you can use the upload of a cover page to define all the formatting of the question booklet. So if you set certain borders and margins, if you put page numbers or a barcode in there, they'll be in the final paper. So it minimizes all of the kind of desktop publishing elements. You don't have to do as much post-production work because you can put those templates in. So you can have your cover page for candidates. You can also download what we call a teacher copy, which is just a copy with the answers. That's always quite useful to have around. There is some functionality as well around getting the responses back in after the paper test has been delivered. So we have the ability to, for multiple choice questions, if the candidates filled in their responses on an OMR form, You can obviously scan that using whatever your OMR scanner is, and we then have a spreadsheet template that you can put the responses in, and it populates the on-screen version of the test effectively. So you can go in and see all your results for both on-screen and paper together. So in that scenario, it's kind of perfect for where you might need a backup plan. You know, everyone's on screen, but you just need to have a few papers ready. And in that way, you don't end up with the results separate because you can just upload them in and they're all associated with that same test. Just trying to think, are there any other features that would be quite useful to talk about? Go through the supported page types. So obviously we can't support every question type. Some of them just are not compatible with paper, so we had to exclude them. So you've got your multiple choice and your variations on that either or. Short answer, so a gap fill. And then fill in the blank, which again is like a gap fill. Sorry, I'm just going to turn it off and a bit louder. Let me know if you can't hear me in the back. And we've got the fill in the blank where you've got a paragraph of text and the responses are just written in, and the essay. And the essay is a good example of how we've customised for paper. When you author an essay question, you've got the option to say how many lines you want for the response. Just a little thing that you wouldn't necessarily think about from screen, where it just scrolls. But obviously on paper, you have to specify the number of lines, whether it's based on the number of marks or complexity of the question. You can specify that information. And when you generate the paper, of course, it automatically populates things like the question numbers, the section header, and you can use it with grouping as well. So if you've got 1A, 1B, 1C, it can automatically do that for you. Okay. Are there any questions on the paper authoring? We've got some papers here. So if at any point anyone wants to have a look through or to talk about the authoring process, we can have a look at it. Okay. Is anyone in the room actively using the on-screen and paper already? I think we did have some they were in the last session. I don't know, they've left. But yeah, so some of the universities are actually using the Dream methods already with the OMR upload. Okay. I'm back over.
So the next delivery method I'm going to talk about is the SecureClient, which is one of our oldest ones. It's also one of our most widely used. Something like over 90% of the exams taken through Surpass are still taken in the SecureClient. So what it is, it's an installed application. So a Windows application, you install it, and then you can kind of run it from that machine. And obviously, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the key code screen there. So there are two main features that you get with the SecureClient that are very valuable. The first of which is the fact that it's locked down. So when the application's launched, when you go into an exam, the candidate has access to nothing other than that exam. So they can't get access to any other applications. There's no way to kind of get around that. Of course, unless you're using a particular question type, such as the file upload, that specifically allows you to get access to those. But otherwise, it's locked down. Candidate can't access any other applications. So the second big feature of the SecureClient. Sorry, I'm being told that you can't hear me. Is that better? Okay, right. So the second big feature that's valuable for SecureClient is the advanced download / resilience caching. So what resilience caching is, in layman's terms, is the storing of exam content on the machine that you're taking the exam on. So what happens when the candidate enters the key code is all the content, all the questions, all the images, everything about that exam is downloaded to that machine. Therefore, if you were to lose internet connection, it's not a problem for the candidate. They can continue seamlessly. They won't even know that there's been any issue with the internet connection. They'll just continue all the way to the end of the exam. And should you not have your connection back by the end of the exam, then you can upload later at a later time or a later date when you have re-established your internet connection. So obviously that applies to all exams. So as I mentioned, whenever you enter any key code, that is immediately downloaded. What you can also do with the SecureClient is use that facility to advanced download, so to download the exam content before the session. So that can be done several days before the session to kind of guarantee. So if you've got any issues in your centre that you think you might not have a connection on any given exam day, then obviously you can use that facility to download it several days before. Another thing that that facility is used for is some awarding bodies, which some of you will be aware of, will download exams onto a laptop, for example, or a whole load of laptops, and then physically take those laptops to a different location, a candidate's house, for example, or I know some awarding bodies have used that method for delivering in prisons, for example. So obviously they can kind of take that in. The candidate can sit their exam in that location that kind of the exam officer or the invigilator has no control of, but they can take their controlled laptop that they know they've got the content on it, they know it's going to work, they can be sure that the candidate will be able to sit that exam. They can then bring it back to their office and upload the result later. Yeah, so as I mentioned, obviously, as well as addressing issues with internet outage, if you're in a situation where you're going to be taking a large number of exams and you might have a reasonably fast connection, or you might even share your connection with other businesses in the same building, therefore high number of exams might result in your internet speed dropping. The resilience caching kind of addresses that as well. So as I kind of mentioned, the SecureClient is perfect for kind of high stakes exams, any exam where you want to be sure that the session is definitely going to go ahead, and also where you want to be able to control the candidate's experience in that they won't have access to any applications that you don't want them to have access to. I'm sure, are we all kind of familiar with the SecureClient? All, lots of nodding heads there. Okay, so the last delivery method that we're going to talk about is actually one of our more recent ones. It's the tablet app. Has everyone seen it? Everyone had any experience of it? Yep. Okay. So here it is, kind of on screen. So it's currently available for Apple devices, for Android devices, and for the Amazon Kindle Fire HD. I'm just looking at Chris there and he's nodding. Yep, we got that right. It shares a lot of the benefits with the SecureClient in that it can be locked down using the guided access that's built in to a lot of tablet OSs. So you can kind of lock it down and prevent the user from changing into another app. But obviously that has to be set up separately. The other thing that it shares with the SecureClient is the resilience. It's got all of the resilience features that I mentioned before, so all of those advantages. And it kind of, on that basis, it opens up a wider possibilities in terms of where you deliver your exams. So the example I gave earlier of somebody downloading exams to a laptop, and I know some awarding bodies have people lugging around huge piles of laptops. Obviously, that becomes a lot easier if you're only working with kind of small tablets. It also kind of enables you to take almost any venue, any classroom, and turn it into an on-screen exam delivery facility without physically having to have those computer rooms, those big kind of large rooms with lots of computers, which certainly in the UK, a lot of schools and colleges don't have those facilities available. So it allows you to kind of open up rooms that you couldn't use for on-screen exams to on-screen delivery. So yeah, just to summarise, the tablet obviously it's suitable for any centre that might have internet intermittency or needs to kind of break away almost from their desktop machines into other locations. It's not widely used at the moment, but I'm sure that this is going to be the one that kind of challenges the SecureClient in terms of usability.